Guys, so what are we going to talk about today? We are going to go back to some of the higher end stuff that I had been doing before. Last few videos have been more in the budget realm, knives that don't necessarily break the bank, but this is a really interesting knife that my buddy Matthew owns. This is a limited edition run. This is number 111 of 120. This is Custom Knife Factory Morph, M-O-R-R-F. So let's go ahead, let's turn the camera around, we'll take a quick look at it. If you're watching while wearing headphones, you may want to turn down the music, turn down the volume, because here comes the music. So this is a knife that Matthew's had for a while, and I've handled it at his place a bunch of times, and to tell you the truth, it's really not a knife that I'm that into, but I thought I would show it anyway. It's not a bad knife. It's extremely well made, just like all the Custom Knife Factory knives. But it's just blade shape and everything for me are not great or optimal. They really don't fit a purpose, but there's a lot of people that I could see using this. This would actually work really well in meat processing. I imagine that cutting meat off a bone, if you were carrying this, this would come in really handy if you were boning out or dressing out a deer or something like that. Not necessarily for the skinning, but the fact that it's got more of that belly where you can cut along and separate meat from bone. So let's go ahead and let's flip the camera around. We'll drop it down. We'll take a good close look at it. It's an attractive knife. And we'll get some specs and we'll do some size comparisons. All right, guys. So I grabbed a couple things for comparison. So what are we looking at here? So this is going to be different than the specs you're going to find. So I have the specs here. I'm pretty sure the weight's going to be different because this is full carbon fiber on this side and this is titanium. The ones that I found listed online that were still available were a carbon fiber inlay on titanium. So we'll actually get some weight on this. So this is, like I said, this is a titanium and carbon fiber frame lock. Lock scale is titanium. Steel lock bar insert, really well. I love the rock pattern on this. Not too aggressive pocket clip. It does have a hot spot. I will mention that here in a little bit. Standoffs as opposed to a full backspacer. Those are I like to call these the Duncan butterfly yo-yo backspacers. I like that. I do like those shape. They're attractive. They catch your eye and they're a nice, they have a nice shine to them. Single-sided pivot. It is, oh, I bumped the camera. I apologize. It is keyed fairly well. The stop pin is in. This is a difficult, I did take this apart. I was going to do a video about it. Not really easy to disassemble and reassemble because of the way this stop pin, just for me, it wanted to fight me the whole time. Nice broad blade with kind of like a Persian sweep to it. And I think, like I said, that would make this really good in meat processing if you were carrying this in the field. I'm having a problem getting my camera to focus. As you can see, this is number 111 of 120. And the steel that's marked on this is S35BN. And this is Custom Knife Factory. So let's go ahead and let's look at the actual specs, and then we'll get the scale out and we'll do some weights. All right, the listed specs online, and I found it on Blade HQ. This knife was a 3.5 in blade length, 3.5 inch blade length, with an overall length of 8.25 inches. It's not a small knife, and I'm going to tell you right now, it doesn't feel as heavy. It doesn't feel like a larger knife. It is very light. It's got some nimbleness to it. Blade thickness 0.16. The weight, they have it listed as 4.79 ounces. I believe this one's going to come in lighter because this entire scale, the one I was looking at was an inlay, carbon fiber inlay. Steel on this is S35BN, but all the versions I found were done in M390, Bowler M390. So let's go ahead, let's get the scale out, and we will take a look at it. Let's get the scale here. So we'll do it in ounces first, as always. We do freedom units first, and then we go to those weird outliers, like the rest of the world. 3 5/8 ounces. So it is, looking at here, it's almost an ounce lighter than the specs I found online. So in grams, let's look at that in grams. 106 grams, 105 grams. Not real heavy at all. It is a very light knife, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it's really comfortable. It's comfortable in hand. It's just not, that blade shape just doesn't put the working edge for me in an area where I would want it. It's absolutely nothing to do with ergos or comfort. I'm just not a big fan of the Persian style blades. I'd much rather have a drop point or a clip point style blade. So let's go ahead and let's do some size comparison. So size comparison wise, as always, let's look at it next to a Sebenza 21. I'm just bumping the crap out of the camera today, guys. It's a little bit bigger than the 21. Another knife that could easily be used as a comparison. Let's move this up a little bit. The Spyderco Endura, another rather large knife. It's not a small knife. In comparison wise, I know that there's some parallax. It is just ever so slightly longer than the Sebenza. Once you get, well, maybe not in all actuality. I mean, there's a lot of parallax visual angles that you're looking at here, but yeah, I do believe that these are all really similar. The Endura is a little bit larger. Rust. I cleaned this up and it rusted in the case. So there's our size comparisons out of the way. Now let's talk about the action and everything on this knife. Now, custom knife factory knives are some of the best when it comes to their action. This knife is extremely smooth. The jimping here, this jimping is, it doesn't feel like it's aggressive, but I'm telling you right now, when you get it in hand, it's just the right amount of sharpness and depth for where it's at on that little thumb ramp there, that low spot, for it to be really effective. I think it would be more effective in gloves. In all actuality, I think that would catch gloves really easily. The flipper tab, the jimping on a flipper tab is not, like in hand, it's not aggressive unless you get up. If you get up on it with your finger, like say you're digging in to do some heavy cutting like this, it puts your finger in a position where you're on the jimping. But even with that, it's not too bad. The detent on it is just about perfect for that blade. And it is pretty much drop shut, fall shut, smooth. The carbon fiber though, I was saving this for last. Carbon fiber work on this is really good. Carbon fiber, and not just the carbon fiber work, the carbon fiber they used. There's no voids, there's no cracks, a lot of times with carbon fiber you'll run into like voids where there's air bubbles and things like that. And they did a really good job of not trying to over polish it, so you still get a good contrast, but it's not so polished that you don't have any grip. Carbon fiber can be polished to a point where you lose any grip. This isn't like that. It's got enough texture that it feels comfortable, but it's not overly aggressive like sometimes G10 can be, but you get enough of the opalescence coming out in those layers that it's really done well. Dead center. The only issue with this knife, and I brought this to, I haven't yet, but I'm gonna bring it to Matt's attention. You can see right there, I believe he bought the secondhand, the tip has been bent on this. I was trying to figure out where the weirdness when I was sharpening was coming from. One side was fine and the other side was not. The tip on this, and you can see it has been bent. The whole tip on it's been bent. So I do believe he might have purchased this secondhand on the secondary market. But other than that, there's nothing wrong with this knife. I have tried, and I think it's just me, I can't seem to get enough purchase on that to flip it open. There's some knives that you can get on that and flip it open. I think that the detent on this is just good enough that I'm not able to get enough purchase. You can hear it pop. The detent on this it's pretty strong, but it's not strong to the point where unlocking it is difficult. It's not a matter of the detent or the lock bar tension. I think they just did a really good job with getting that detent ball and hole just the perfect size for the amount of pressure that this lock bar is providing. Because it isn't, like I said, it's not overly difficult. So like I said, it does have a lock bar insert with the lock bar insert does act, as you can see it right there, act as an over travel stop. You can't push it too far. And there is no play in this knife. This is rock solid. So there's no detent, or there's no blade play. Is a little bit of detent play, but you can feel it here. I talked about this in a live feed this morning. A lot of times people think that that's the detent itself. What you're getting here is that's just the lock bar flexing as you're starting to apply some pressure. I can feel it in this finger when I do it. That's the lock bar moving. It's not like the detent ball is wobbling around in the hole. It's actually flexing the lock bar as you're preloading for it to move out of the way. That's what you're seeing. That's all that is. A lot of times that's what you get on a lot of knives. So let's go ahead and let's turn this back around and we'll do some final thoughts. I've been trying real hard to get this level. I'm just convinced that my house is crooked, because no matter how I try to set this tripod up, it looks like I'm crooked no matter what I do. So final thoughts, the CKF Morph. This is, like I said, this is one of those knives that I can appreciate for the fact that it's well built, it's well made, it's real comfortable. The only issue I have is there is a point. I meant to mention this. There's a point where this is ground to a point here that is not on the other side, and it just, in my hand, that little point does dig in here. It's not horrible, but it is a little bit of a hot spot. It's the only hot spot on the knife. There's nothing else really that's a hot spot. And if I just change my position of my grip a little bit, it's not bothersome. It's when I get it down like this. If I'm holding it like this versus getting down on it for some power cutting, I really don't notice it. So this is a really attractive, really well-made knife that just is one of those ones that I just wanted to show you guys, because this is not something I would buy. If we were gonna only do knives that I would buy, we would be very limited and the channel would not get, it wouldn't have the broad diversity, because now, like I've said, I'm getting into these really well-made, affordable, like $60 to $200 knives. So now this thing, like I said, limited edition run, it's great. It got super sharp. That's the other thing. So this thing is full flat ground all the way from the spine, nice broad blade. It transitions extremely well. It's really, really nice and thin and slicey. So yeah, Custom Knife Factory Morph, guys. If you can get your hands on one just to see it, it might be a knife you enjoy. Like I said, I could see some applications for this. My buddy David would probably, because he's an avid hunter, he would probably enjoy something like this with more of a like almost like the scimitar blades that you can get as kitchen knives, where they've got the big sweep for cutting meat, long draw cuts on meat. This is that same kind of blade shape and design where it might come in handy for him in the field. Like I said, but these were around $350, $400, depending on what site you went to. So I mean, not super expensive. I don't know what this limited edition run cost, but the price I was seeing for the ones that were an M390 with the inlay were about $350, $375, depending on what vendor you were looking at. So, all right, guys. I mean, that's pretty much all I've got to say about this knife. There's other stuff coming. I am going to do a video. By the time you guys see this video will be shot and this knife will be available. This is a new Ferrum Forge design. This is their production run of a knife that they made that really, it was so popular. This is the Stinger. I'm going to be doing a video about this. I'm going to talk to Elliot about it today, get all the specs and everything, so that I can do the video of what the production Stinger is going to be. And so it's going to be like a Ferrum Forge Pro line. If you remember, they've released several knives that were in that Ferrum Forge design, Ferrum Forge Pro line of knives that they've made in the past that they're bringing into production, just so that it's not the 100 or 200 guys that can get them. It's more available to everyone. And I like the way that that's going in the industry. So guys, that's it. I'll put stuff in the corners. Go follow Skywarp41. I talked to him a couple times. Great kid. He only has about 1,000 subscribers. I will put a link to his channel in the whichever corner it pops up in. Follow that link and go subscribe. He's a good kid. I talked to him on Thursday Night Knives on the Blade Junkie podcast website. He said, you know, that a lot of the stuff that I've done is the reason he does, you know, the stuff on his channel. So says he follows the channel, and just yeah, it'd be cool if we could get him a little bit more of a subscribership. So guys, I love you all. Have a safe and happy weekend. It's Saturday here. I'm gonna go make knife stuff. You guys take it easy, and I'll see you in the next video.